All right. Well, good morning. I'm Berkenda, the Orange Chamber of Commerce's Vice Chair of Events, and I'm excited to welcome you to the June installment of Eggs and Issues. Before we get started, there are a couple of housekeeping reminders. If you are here with us on the Zoom, please be sure that your audio is muted and that your video is off. This is going to be an open format, so questions are encouraged. If you have any questions for our guest speaker, please use the chat function in the Zoom toolbar or the video comment section of our Facebook. And we have moderators in both sections, so we will do our best to answer any questions that you have. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce this morning's guest speaker, Orange County District Attorney Todd Spitzer. Todd Spitzer has a long-standing reputation as an advocate for victims' rights. He chaired the groundbreaking campaign for Proposition 9, Marsy's Law, the nation's most comprehensive victims' Bill of Rights, and served as state co-chair for Proposition 83, the nation's toughest sex offender punishment and control law, as well as Proposition 69, which requires a collection of DNA samples from all felons. DA Spitzer also joint authored Megan's Law on the Internet, the landmark legislation requiring the release of public information related to sex offenders, and as a former deputy and assistant district attorney, he handled complex criminal matters while managing line prosecutors. Todd Spitzer has dedicated his life to keeping families safe and was inspired to dedicate his career to public service as an Orange County supervisor, former California State Assembly member, and now as the Orange County District Attorney. Well, Todd, we know there is so much going on in our county right now, and you have a very busy schedule. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to the chamber and chamber members and members of the public. Yeah, it's been ridiculously busy. I've only been in office a little over 2 years, and with the pandemic, it feels like I've been in office for 10 years. I think I probably speak for all of us that life, I don't know if life got easier or more difficult,
Right.
But it's really good to be back, and I'm really very appreciative of this opportunity. You know, we've had a lot of incidents right here close to home, Berkenda. We had on May 21st, we had the shooting of Aiden Leos, a little 6-year-old boy, right off of Chapman and the 55 freeway. So right here in the city of Orange. And then about 5 weeks ago, almost 6 weeks ago now, we had the terrible shooting of 4 individuals at a business also in the city of Orange.
Right.
So the CHP was a lead investigation on the Aiden Leos killing, and I've now charged 2 individuals. We were able to get them into custody after about 2 weeks of searching, and so the CHP did a phenomenal job. But we still have not arraigned the individual who we have now charged with multiple counts of murder and attempted murder on a police officer for the shooting in Orange. But the city of Orange, the police department did a phenomenal job. Many people know that Chief Casella is retiring, and so I'm sad to see him go. I'm pleased to see a new chapter in his life, but the Orange Police Department is in very, very good hands, and it's an outstanding agency. I live in the city of Orange, so I have a personal interest in making sure that Orange not only has a great police department, a great chamber, but is also a very, very safe place to live. We're going to screen share real quick because I really want people to appreciate, and I don't think they do, not because they don't appreciate it in that sense. I just don't think they understand that we are, Jose may be trying to screen share.
Jose, are you good? Yep, there he goes.
There he goes. Okay. So the Orange County District Attorney's Office is the 3rd largest district attorney's office in the state of California. And these statistics are because of the pandemic, but generally we hover around 900 employees, $150 million a year budget. In fact, my budget is up at the Board of Supervisors this morning. And I get some of the half-cent sales tax. So I'm the beneficiary of Prop 172. The sheriff gets 80%, the DA gets 20% of a half-cent sales tax here in Orange County. So I run the 3rd largest office in the state and the 6th in the nation. 300 lawyers, biggest law firm in Orange County. I have a police department within the Orange County District Attorney's Office. I have 150 sworn personnel headed by Paul Walters. That name is probably familiar Paul was the city manager of City of Santa Ana, police chief for over 30, for many, many years in the city of Santa Ana, and chief of staff to Supervisor Bartlett. And now he's my chief in the DA's bureau. Next slide. We handle, we review about 70,000 cases a year, and we have about 40,000 active cases at any one time. Even during the pandemic, we did more jury trials than any other jurisdiction in the state of California. The judges here in Orange County are very, very proactive. Rick Larsch, the presiding judge of the Superior Court, he lives in Orange as well, so he's another Orange resident. And we're just very efficient, and we work very well together. So even though I'm an adversary, say for example with the public defender, they represent individuals I've charged. Of course, the defense bar does too. I would say we're very, very collaborative, and we try to be collegial whenever possible. And I think that's just the best business practice. The mission statement of the district attorney's office, I changed it slightly after I got elected. My goal my number one goal is to keep Orange County safe. That is what I get up and do, and what my staff does every single day. We want to keep Orange County safe. And the second is that we protect and we advocate for crime victims. And many of you know that the city of Los Angeles right now is very, very controversial with its newly elected district attorney. He's changed a lot of the policies that are making Los Angeles very, very unsafe. Crime has gone up dramatically with homicides and grand theft auto and rape in the city of Los Angeles. The homeless population has exploded in Los Angeles. You can see, for example, just in the city of Orange, when we cleared the riverbed next to Angel Stadium, I did that as a county supervisor in partnership with the city of Orange and the leadership of your city council members. And so we work very, very well together to solve problems. We built the first homeless shelter on Little Kramer Place in the city of Anaheim. We now have Be Well, which I'll talk about in a minute. That's on Anita Street. In fact, it's right next to the corporate offices of Thompson, who is our sponsor today. And they've been an excellent partner with our new psychiatric and mental health crisis center. And I'll talk about that shortly. Next slide. This is the organizational chart of my office, and it's just to show you, to be demonstrative of just how big of an organization that I oversee. So of the 900 employees, right, we prosecute all the felonies in Orange County. Only the city of Anaheim and the city of Huntington Beach prosecute, Anaheim prosecutes all of its misdemeanors and criminal, and city of Huntington Beach prosecutes some of their very, very low level nuisance types of crimes. But otherwise we prosecute everything else, which is why we have 70,000 cases that we review every year. We have a sex crimes unit, homicide unit, human trafficking, gang unit, insurance fraud, business. Our insurance and real estate fraud is really where we deal with issues in the public. Individual businesses that don't take out workers' compensation, don't cover their employees, things like that are more almost like it can be criminal, but are almost of a civil nature. And we have a special prosecutions unit. So I have the fortunate or unfortunate opportunity, I guess you could say. I'm the one that investigates all the high profile crimes in Orange County. So any corruption, public corruption, crimes committed by public officials, elected officials. Many of you knew about the city manager in Fullerton who was driving drunk, crashed into, I think, a tree or jumped the sidewalk. And there was an issue with a police officer who helped kind of cover that up. I prosecuted the city manager and I prosecuted the police officer for that. So we deal with very, very sensitive issues. I review every officer involved shooting in Orange County. So for example, in the shooting in Orange, the one I've already referenced where 4 people were killed, that also has an independent investigation over the police officers who deployed lethal force when they discharged their firearms through the gate and they took down the suspect. In fact, I still have not been able to arraign the shooter in that case because one of the police officers, when he fired his rifle, was able to get a headshot and the defendant had to have surgery to remove the bullet from his head. One of the victims was shot by the suspect in the head. I have met with her. Thank God she survived, but she lost her son, 6 years old, and she lost her daughter, an adult woman. So it's a horrible, horrible tragedy. But you can see just by kind of this reference chart, we have an overwhelming responsibility, and the issues we deal with every day are very, very significant. Next slide. So this is just to show you, if you're interested, you can go to my website, just Google Orange County District Attorney, and I have both my principles of everything I believe that a district attorney should stand for and do in office. And then the next slide, I have a statement of principles of the district attorney and what the role of the prosecutor is. And all of you know that the discussion about the police today in America is changing very, very significantly. And so is the role of the prosecutor, which is why in Los Angeles, for example, they elected an individual who said he was going to completely turn the system upside down. They did the same thing in San Francisco. Chesa Boudin is was a public defender and ran for district attorney and won. His parents both went to prison for life. His mom was recently paroled, but both his parents were part of the Weather Underground, and they killed a police officer during a bank heist of an armored car. So, I mean, you have these individuals now. Larry Krasner is the DA of Philadelphia. He made a living suing the police departments before he was elected DA. So the system in our country today is completely different, upside down. And I vow that I am not going to allow what's happening in those communities to happen in Orange County. I think we care much too deeply about our safety. But at the same time, and let's go to the next slide. Let's keep going. I want to talk about mental illness real quick. So I'm going to fly through these because I want to talk about mental. Okay, let's stop there. Thank you, Jose. So the Be Well campus, Orange should be very, very proud, the city, that it is hosting Orange County's first mental crisis center. And when I designed it, Supervisor Wagner oversaw and most of the construction and the opening, but I was the one that had the community town halls and forums about this. I was the one that approved it before I left office to become DA. And it was scary to a lot of people, but when I was a police officer in the city of Los Angeles and I arrested somebody, say, for being under the influence of drugs or being drunk in public, taking them to jail is not going to solve their problem. But I could take them to the Weingart Center in Los Angeles and they could get counseling, get a meal, get clean clothes, get cleaned up, and hopefully meet with a social worker to try to change their ways. And these models, just so you know, it takes about 60 detentions for somebody to go to these facilities 60 times before they'll commit to their sobriety. So when somebody's addicted to drugs or alcohol, it takes a long time for them to turn their life around. But I can tell you, as a prosecutor, former police officer, and an elected official in our county for over 30 years, the way we've been doing things in the past has not worked. And we need to accept that. But as your DA, it is my job to do things better and to help people who have mental illness and addiction issues help turn their life around. Next slide. And then, Berkenda, I'll kind of close with this and take questions. Again, I don't think people know all the courts we have in Orange County that I staff in order to help people with particular issues and needs. So we have a drug court. We have a driving under the influence court. We have a homeless court for individuals who get arrested, but they're on the street and they're committing crimes. We have military diversion. In other words, I feel very strongly that if you remember, we used to have a draft and somebody would get drafted and they would be deployed and they would do a tour of duty, and then generally their time in the military was over. But because we now have a voluntary military, we now deploy individuals to conflict areas in the world multiple times, 2, 3, 4 times. And when these individuals come home, oftentimes they have serious mental issues, and they have a very difficult time surviving in society. And I feel as an American who's deeply indebted to those who serve our country, that as a district attorney, if they find themselves committing crimes, that I want them to go to a special court, get intensive treatment, and if they successfully complete a program and they're safe, I will dismiss the charges so that their record does not affect their ability to reintegrate into civilian life. So I'm really proud of that program, and it's one of the hallmarks of my office. Next slide. That's it.
Well, my goodness, Todd, that is a lot of information. I want to go back to something you were saying. I was pouring over like all the information. If you could only see me sitting here with like 2 computers and a cell phone and notes. Good gracious. Be Well OC. That is an amazing just institution that you were able to input. We are so excited that that's in Orange. I know I talked about that on the mayor's call, but how do you feel that, so now that it's been open now for what, I guess 3 months, time has been flying with things opening, about 3 months.
Yeah, 4 months, yeah.
But do you feel that on your end, it's been widely received and that people are really taking advantage of those services at this point?
So I think I've been a little frustrated that it's been a little slow on the intake or uptake.
Okay.
In other words, I think it should be full speed ahead and be completely integrated across our whole county. Now, it is a beautiful facility, and it has limitations in terms of the number of patients it can take, clients it can take. We need another one of these facilities more to the middle or south part of the county, probably somewhere around where the Great Park is, potentially on the land that the county has. But we have 3.3 million people in this county. And look, I'm going to submit to you, I have a cousin. When I went to law school, I lived with my Uncle Rick, and he had 2 daughters, and one of them, they were twins, and one of them was schizophrenic, my cousin Patsy. I think everybody has some experience with mental illness, either themselves or a family member or somebody they're very close to. Mental illness permeates our society. And instead of being embarrassed about it, or, trying to, no one ever wants to talk about, cousin Patsy.
Right.
And that's the way it was when I was growing up, right? With my cousin Patsy, she was crazy, and we didn't want to acknowledge that's not an empathetic approach to our society. So we need to do more, and we need to make sure that we're utilizing that facility to the max, because I want people to get help.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And I do feel like, as you're saying, there has been a shift, whereas before in the past, people would kind of hush. And so now that it's out in the open, we appreciate that you were able to build that and have that in our community. And we do hope to see more of those in the county. You also mentioned something about the different district attorneys, I believe in Los Angeles and San Francisco. Something that came up prior to our call, I was checking around, town and seeing if any members had questions. And the one question that came up with, that somebody came up with, was that they said it would seem that LA County, of course, as we can see, has been more lenient towards its youth and punishing youth. Do you feel that's going to spill over into Orange County? And what can we as a community do to be aware and see how it's going to impact us here?
So one of the things that's really frustrating about what they call themselves the progressive DAs, they somehow think they're the enlightened ones and we're not. And that they suddenly, they own the field, if you will, about how we deal with criminal justice. I sat in on a prosecution of a boy that murdered his mother, okay? I mean, we have some really serious individuals who commit crimes as juveniles. In California today, so for example, let me give you the example of Aiden Leos. So Aiden Leos was shot on the freeway. We all know pretty much the facts. It was everywhere. And that individual, Mr. Aries, Marcus Aries, who I've charged with murder of Aiden, he is 24 years old.
Great.
In California today, if you're 26 or younger, you are considered a youth for purposes of sentencing, which means if you commit a murder, no matter what the sentence is, you are eligible for parole after 25 years, even if you kill somebody, because you happen to be under or 26 or under. So I don't think we're having that. I know that boys especially, their brains develop at a much different rate. And I completely understand that. But what I'm frustrated about is there's an argument today as if because you're younger, you're a teenager or you're younger, that you are not responsible for your crimes and that your punishment should be different because developmentally you are not mature enough to understand or be in a position to stop your commission of a crime.
Right.
We got to do better than that. We shouldn't just have these fixed time periods. But I do believe that young people, look, the juvenile system, and I worked it when I was a new prosecutor, it's designed to be rehabilitative. In other words, if in juvenile court, they're not convictions. They're sustained petitions for the very reason that we're trying to get kids turned around before they become adults. But there's just some young people who commit such heinous and egregious crimes, they need to be held accountable.
Yes, I feel that much of the community would definitely agree with that for sure. And so we do appreciate your taking the seriousness of that matter and all matters of that nature to into consideration. We definitely appreciate that. Well, let's see, what else do we have time for? Let's see, I do have something that came through on Facebook. Oh, just a comment. Comment from somebody on Facebook, Todd, is, I am so happy Todd is our DA. He is doing a great job.
Well, how can I argue with that? You know, look, people need to understand that the district attorney has become a very, very high profile position in society. I started in the district attorney's office, 32 years ago as a line prosecutor when I graduated from law school. And Berkenda, when I became a prosecutor, I was told two things: do as many trials as possible, because we're a trial firm, and get as many convictions as you can. And that is not enlightened. That is not the approach of a prosecutor. Thank God we've come a long way. A prosecutor's job is to do justice. It's not to get a conviction. It's to do the right thing for society, for the victim, but also for the defendant. We need to be thinking the whole picture. And at the end, what is in the best interest of society and the public? But I have a gentleman who stabbed his roommate and went on a kind of a hallucinogenic binge induced by marijuana, but we think there must have been fentanyl or something else, but we don't know. And it's very, very serious, but he has no record, never committed a crime before. And so I don't want him to go to state prison. I don't want to see his life ruined because he had an episode and, a one-off, if you will. So my prosecutors, and this is a good way to close, I judge my prosecutors, not the way I was judged by the number of trials I did. That was a stat. If I had X number of trials and X conviction rate, I got promoted. I judge my prosecutors. Their raises, their promotions are all determined by, are they a whole prosecutor? Are they being fair? Are they being just? Are they committed to the practice of doing justice? And that's what we want for Orange County and our community.
Well, thank you so much for that. I know you mentioned close. I know our time is very short today. One last thing is, do you have a message? So we here are the Orange Chamber of Commerce. And so our members are mostly our business and our community, but do you have a message or any parting words for our business community here in Orange?
Well, I wanted to end on a high note, but I'm going to end on a medium or low note.
Oh, no.
The California legislature, and I served there for 6 years, it is not business friendly. Walgreens, all 10 Walgreens in San Francisco are closing because theft is now $950. And if I steal on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I can only be charged as a misdemeanor for every one of those days, even as long as I keep the value I stole under $950. That is outrageous. When you're a business person, and my dad was a small businessman, he owned a pharmacy, By-Right Pharmacy in La Habra, 340 North Harbor Boulevard, okay? I worked there as a kid. My dad provided jobs. Every Sunday night, he did the payroll while I was watching The Wide World at Disney, okay? I remember it like it was yesterday. And I remember my dad signs the front of the paycheck, okay? And it is very, very difficult to be a business person in California today. And the last thing you want is your district attorney not supporting business. So because of where I came from, coming from a business family, coming from a father and mother who were very hardworking and supported their family and didn't ask government for anything, I have that philosophy, and I'm here to do everything I can to protect your ability to run your business free of interference from government, and certainly protected by law enforcement when you need us.
And we thank you for that. Todd, thank you so much for your service to our county. You've had numerous positions here in our county. We appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much for joining us today and taking some time. We know that you have to hop off, and so thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you. Everybody have a blessed day.
Everybody else, you guys stay on. We're going to do some announcements before we close. So first of all, I would like to thank our sponsor, Thompson Building Materials. We thank you so much for sponsoring this particular segment with us. I also want to go ahead and let's pop up a screen here. 1 second. Let's get that pushed over. I want to go ahead and thank all of our Chairman's Circle members. I'm going to leave this up for a second because we do have a couple new Chairman's Circle members. So thank you guys so much for everything that you do. A lot of the programs that we have right now are funded by our Chairman's Circle. So thank you again for that. While we have this screen up, I do also want to show you a couple of events. So we have some things that are going to be going on here in Orange. Now that things are reopening, we do still have some virtual. We also have some in person. But so next month we have our B&G. That's going to be Business Networking Group. That's going to be on July 21st at noon. After that, our next Eggs and Issues is going to be August 24th at 9 a.m. It's going to be hosting our newly appointed Police Chief, Dan Adams. For special events, we have a ribbon cutting at East Chapman Veterinary Center on July 10th at 10 a.m. Partner events. I know this is a mouthful today. I think you guys should be very excited because I think if you guys can look back a couple sessions, we only had a couple things to announce, and today we have about 6. So partner events. We have Policy on Tap, June 23rd at noon. That's going to be co-hosted by the Brea, Huntington Beach, La Habra, Orange, Newport Beach, Placentia, and Yorba Linda Chambers of Commerce. And so you see that flyer here on your left. And then we have another partner event, and that is going to be Dale Carnegie, Understanding Diversity and Inclusion. That's going to be on June 24th at 9 a.m. And I would be remiss to not add our July 3rd celebration. It's our 26th annual that is here in the city of Orange. And so we do hope that you'll all join us for that. If you would like to reach us, or if you do need to reach the district attorney, we have his information here. He is at orangecountyda.org, Orange Chamber. Our social media is a great place to find us, but we also have a website, so you can find us at orangechamber.com. And with that, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate you. We love our business community and we love Orange. Thank you so much and have a great day. I'll see you soon.